Hello friends, welcome to Awdhesh Academy. Friends, we are now going to start a new chapter that is dealing with offences and penalties. We shall be learning first about the investigations, why an investigation is being done, and particularly in this particular chapter, we are going to learn about the investigations under summons proceedings. So first of all, what is the need of investigation? In the GST regime, the entire process is based on trust, and the assessee or the taxpayer does all the assessment themselves. The department does not come into picture. They decide how much is the value, they decide how much is the clearance, they decide the classification, they decide their tax rates, they decide their values and the tax liability, deposit that tax liability. Now, many people misuse this power which has been given by the government and evade huge amount of taxes. And in such situation, investigation becomes absolutely necessary because the taxes are used for the development of the country, and anybody who is not paying the taxes correctly is actually playing with the development of the country. In order to ensure that nobody evades the taxes or the tax evasion is made very difficult, the GST officers has been given ample powers to carry out the investigations under the GST Acts and recover the taxes which has been evaded by the taxpayer. There has been also provisions of imposition of penalties and fines, and there are more severe provisions like arrest and all that, which should deter the person to evade the taxes. But a GST officer cannot go and start investigation against anybody. They must first have the reason to believe that there is a tax evasion. So unless you have a reason to believe, you cannot go and start the investigation. So who are the authorities who are competent to investigate? First of all, the central GST authorities, the officers of central GST, they can investigate any tax evasion within their jurisdiction. In the same way, the state GST authorities can investigate within their jurisdiction. However, the officers of the Directorate General of GST Intelligence or DGGI, they have the power to investigate the tax evasion at all India level. As the jurisdiction of the state GST officers and the central GST officer is generally limited in the territorial jurisdiction, therefore, when a larger investigation is to be done, then GST intelligence comes into picture. Now, very important thing you must know is about the reason to believe. What is the meaning of reason to believe? So, reason to believe means having knowledge of the facts, whether direct knowledge or not, that would make any reasonable person knowing the same facts to reasonably conclude the same thing. Such beliefs must be based on an incident or a statement having sufficient circumstantial evidence or support to substantiate the truth. According to the Indian Penal Code 1860, a person is said to have reason to believe a thing if he has sufficient cause to believe that thing but not otherwise. Now, these are the different interpretations of the reason to believe. Now, let me give you some examples which will make the things very clear. Let us say that somebody has hired a business premises for rent, and the rent is 1 lakh rupees per month for, let us say, 10,000 square feet of space. Now you go to the online portals, for example 99acres.com or magicbricks.com, and you find that the actual rent which is offered by other buyers, or let me say the market rent, is say double of that, say 2 lakh rupees per month for the same area. Now in that situation, it is very reasonable to conclude that the person is not declaring the full rent to be paid. In the same way, for example, let us say a person is clearing television sets. The MRP of the television set is 50,000 rupees, but the assessable value on which the GST is being paid by that person is just 10,000 rupees. rupees. So you can say that there is a huge margin which has been shown, and that is very unrealistic margin. Now you compare that with another manufacturer of the same item, which is also sold in the market nearby at say around 50,000 rupees only, but they are declaring their assessable value as 25,000. Now in that situation, it is very reasonable to conclude that the person who is declaring the value as 10,000 rupees is not declaring the proper value, and then you can start the investigation in that case. So we have given some examples as to how you can arrive at the reason to believe before you starting the investigation. There may be many methods on which we can base our reason to believe. So let us study some of them. For example, the reason to believe may be based on any discrepancy which you have noticed during scrutiny of tax return, any discrepancy which has been found by the audit, or any discrepancy during the data analysis of the tax return and third party information like electricity bill, balance sheet data, TDS data, etc. So I think I will give you an example to explain this point. Let us say somebody is manufacturing iron ingot. Now he is consuming, let us say, 1000 kilowatt of power, and he is producing, let us say, 1 ton of the iron ingot. Now you know that for manufacture of 1 ton of iron ingot, only 500 kilowatt of power is required, and this fellow is consuming 1000 kilowatt. You have got this information from other manufacturer of the same item, because they are also consuming 1000 kilowatt and producing double of this. On that situation, when you compare with this manufacturer, you can reasonably conclude that this fellow is not declaring the proper production and clearance. In the same way, we sometimes make the case on the basis of intelligence which has been collected by the officers. They have gone and inquired from people and found out that there is an undervaluation. For example, somebody is selling a flat at 1 crore rupees. You as a customer has gone and asked him the price. He says 1 crore rupees, but you pay 50% as black and 50% as white. So the declared price is 50 lakhs only. So in that situation, what happens that you know that the price is 50% undervalued and the tax is evaded to that extent. So in the same way, officers can collect the information as a customer, and then they can conclude the reason to believe. And then sometimes specific information is received from an informer who may be an insider person, who will tell how much evasion is there, and he may also give you the evidence. On the basis of that, you can start the investigation. Sometimes what happens that the raid is conducted at a particular place and some incriminating documents are recovered during the course of investigation, which shows some sort of shady transactions or illegal or unaccounted for transactions, and those can become the reason to believe for starting an investigation. Sometimes a modus operandi circular is issued by the government on specific cases, and on that basis also you can conclude the reason to believe and investigate a similar type of production, clearance or service provider. So these are some of the examples which are often used by the department for coming at the reason to believe. Now let us understand how the investigation starts. So once you have reason to believe that somebody is evading taxes, then the department will use their powers and start the investigation. Now this can be in many types. They have first the power to summon the person to record his statement in connection with the investigation. Suppose it is only a document based, then you can start the investigation on the basis of summons only. Then power to inspect the business premises of the taxable person. The officer can depute somebody, some departmental officer who can inspect the business premises, and then they can collect some evidence there. Then they have the power to search any premises where any incriminating document or illegal goods may be concealed. So the power of search is also there. Seizure of any incriminating document for the purpose of investigation. They can seize the documents, and then they can arrest and prosecute a taxable person in certain types of offences if he is found engaged in serious offences under the Act. So if the tax evasion is huge in nature or it is specified as very serious type of fraud, in that situation what happens, that you can even arrest the person and prosecute the persons. So these are the powers which are vested with the officers of the GST department. Now let us understand the meaning of the investigation under the summon proceedings. Summon proceedings are carried out when the discrepancy is visible from record during and after inspection, search and seizure. An officer of the rank of superintendent or above may issue summons asking the noticee to appear before the officer in his office or tender his statement. Then spot summons can also be issued during search inspection for recording the statement of the people who may be present on the spot. So the summon proceedings is basically for recording the statement or producing the documents. Let us now know the legal provisions of summon which are provided under section 70 of the CGST or SGST Act. It provides that the proper officer under this Act shall have the power to summon any person whose attendance he considers necessary either to give evidence or to produce a document or any other thing in any inquiry in the same manner as provided in the case of civil code under the provisions of the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. Every such inquiry referred to in the subsection 1 shall be deemed to be the judicial proceedings within the meaning of section 193 and section 228 of the Indian Penal Code. So the summons can be issued for tendering of the statement or production of the document. And whatever statement that person give before the tax authorities, that will be amounting to the judicial proceedings. So this is a very, very important thing you should know. See, when the statement is tendered before a police officer, that is not considered to be an admissible piece of evidence as far as the investigation is concerned. However, the same statement which is been given before the judicial officer can be relied upon for the purpose of investigation. So, the statement which has been tendered before the GST officers is considered to be a judicial proceedings, and therefore those statements can be relied upon for the purpose of investigation. Now, what happens if the person refuses to appear before the summon or refuses to produce the documents as asked under the summons? There are very serious consequences of that. If a person does not appear without any reasonable justification, he can be prosecuted under section 174 of the Indian Penal Code. If he abscond to avoid service of summons, he can be prosecuted under section 172 of the IPC. In case he does not produce the documents or electronic record required to be produced, he can be prosecuted under section 175 of the IPC. In case he provides false document, he can be prosecuted under section 193 of the IPC. In addition, he is also liable for a penalty up to rupees 25,000 under section 122(3)(d) of the CGST or SGST Act. So friends, summons are very, very important tools for investigation, and everybody is bound to attend if he has been summoned. If you do not attend the proceedings, if a summon has been issued, then the consequences can be very, very severe. So whatever statement you give during summons, that can be relied upon while issuing the show cause notice or for any purpose if the case is filed before the court of law. So friends, today we have learned about how the investigation starts under the GST and what are the salient features of the summon proceedings which are used for the investigation under the GST Acts. Thank you very much for watching this lesson.